Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to Let's Start Story on What If Naruto Had Kurenai as his girlfriend and Had Big Harem Part 2. So do 4 blue hearts comment. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video, and please share with your friends and watch till end. Also check out Patreon, for I have upload Naruto x Kurenai uncensored spicy version, link in description. Naruto woke with a start. Cold sweat had slowly cascaded down his skin as he sat up. Pain caused to grab his right shoulder. Surprisingly, he found the arm still attached. Tenshu, what happened? After a pregnant silence, Kageshin spoke. A metallic wolf saved Kurenai after you collapsed. It happened quickly enough that Tenshu decided not to take your arm. However, he is rather ticked off at what you did. It might take some time before he even attempts to converse with you. I figured as much. I guess I need to watch what I promise. Kurenai, how is she? Naruto questioned frantically. Do not worry, Fishcake. She is sleeping soundly in the bed to your left. Rin took care of both of you. Other than almost being suffocated in blood loss, Kurenai is going to be just fine. At least that is what I heard Rin say. Thank you, Kageshin, the boy whispered. His muscles tensed and he completely froze. Images of what happened flashed through his mind. They appeared so fast that his head began to ache. However, there were only a couple images that stood out. Kurenai's blood-drenched body, a silver blur, and then complete darkness. The more he thought about it, the harder his heart beat. Her pain-filled screams echoed within in his mind. The heartbeat monitor increased its rhythm. Slowly the blood oozed from her kunai-inflicted wounds. Naruto's breathing began ragged and forced. The light faded from her eyes. His hand moved from his shoulder to his shirt, gripping the fabric with intense strength. Outside the door, Itachi was on keeping watch over the two severely injured Konoha ninja. Naruto experienced a tremendous amount of mental trauma and his shoulder was almost detached from his body. It was like it was slowly being ripped out. It's a total mystery to me. Rin's words droned in the Junin's mind. Meanwhile, Kurenai has only suffered from blood loss and intermediate strangulation. Suddenly a familiar signature entered the man's presence. Hokage-sama, how are you tonight? I am doing just fine, Uchiha-san. How are my two ninja? Both are sleeping soundly. The man droned. May I inquire something? A nod signified the elder's approval. What was that metallic wolf? Sarutobi thought for a second before answering honestly. Truth be told, I have no idea. It was not a summon, that much I can be sure of. Kurenai did not make the necessary hand seals. Nor is she in Konoha's archives as possessing a summon. I believe I have heard or seen something similar to this, but it was many years ago. It's a guardian, or at least that is a hypothesis that I have. A soft voice interjected. Ah, Haku-san. Itachi greeted. Care to explain? I do not know for sure. However, I do remember my mother telling me of legendary animals that choose a person or a specific family to protect. This person was usually someone of a royal lineage or had close relationships with the guardian species. That would be plausible, but Uehi Kurenai is not royalty. The Sandaime stated. From Konoha's records, her family moved here only a few decades ago. However, 10 years ago, her immediate family was slaughtered in one night. What? I thought she is known as the Ice Queen. Haku sincerely protested. A sigh escaped the lips of the elderly ninja. She is only known as that because of the way she is with men. She does not trust almost 100% of the male population. So she pushes aside any attempt at an advance on her. That has earned her the title of Ice Queen. Not only that, she does not have any affinity for Hyoten. Or at least she has not shown it. Haku's world came to a halt. If Kurenai was not the Ice Queen she thought, then should she still go to Konoha? The Hokage did mention there was a possibility. But in order to see if it was true or not, Haku would have to seek asylum in the hidden village. Plus, wherever Zabuza went, she needed go. Her sensitive ears caught on to a rapid beeping sound. It sounded like a heart monitor. Hokage-sama, something's wrong, she nearly shouted, facing the door that led to Naruto's bed. Itachi took no chances and burst through the door. What they saw shocked them. Naruto was gripping at his heart. Blood oozed from the wounds his fingers made. His shirt had easily been ripped to shreds by the boy's strength. The heart monitor was squealing loudly and sweat cascaded off Naruto's body in waves. Instantly Itachi and the Hokage were at his side, trying to figure out what they could do. Genjutsu. Itachi thought. The men pried open the eyelids and activated his dujutsu. Itachi grew frustrated. His eyes are unfocused and it appears as though he has receded deep into his subconscious. I cannot help because if I do, I may cause permanent damage to multiple areas of his brain. Those words brought fear into the elder's heart. What is going on? Rin's voice entered the room. Upon seeing Naruto in his current state, she quickly appeared to his side. Green chakras, sir, rounded her hands as she placed them upon his temples. Rin was utterly baffled by the analysis. I've never seen this before. What is going on? The Hokage demanded. Some sort of mental trauma is ousing his body to go into a state of anaphylactic shock. Haku watched in horror as the blonde continued to thrash in pain. As she backed up, a hand grabbed onto her forearm. It was Kurenai. Take. The woman began. Excuse me. Haku insisted. Take me to him. The red-eyed female pleaded. The missing nin quickly helped her out of the bed. Kurenai wobbled at first, but through sheer willpower, forced her legs to steady. Every step sent a jolt of pain up through her appendages, but she pushed forward. Rin, noticing movement in her peripherals, instantly appeared at her best friend's side. Ku-chan, you need to be in bed. No, she whispered through gritted teeth. Take me to Naru. Together the two females moved the injured one to the bedside. The medic nin hoisted Kurenai's legs onto the mattress as Haku lifted the other half. Sarutobi and Itachi watched in fascination as the Ice Queen's hand slowly reached for the boy's cheek. Upon contact, Naruto's thrashing slowed down, along with his heartbeat. The blood-drenched hand gripped onto the pale white object that had touched his face. He held onto it for dear life. Tears began to flow from his eyes as a familiar scent assaulted his nose. She was alive. That much his subconscious knew. Little one, she cooed softly in his ear. The heart monitor's beeps decreased in frequency as the seconds trudged onward. Naruto began to return to consciousness. And as soon as he did, his arms wrapped around the injured woman. More tears escaped his shut eyes as he hugged her tightly. Naruto's head was buried deep into her collarbone. Kurenai returned the hug and began to caress the back of his head. Her ministrations did not stem the flow of emotions. Naruto cried as hard as he ever had. She's all right. She's all right. She's all right. Naruto's chest ached, throat constricted violently, and an unbridled hatred for himself encompassed his fragile mind. He had failed to be her protector. His word was as good as mud, and as a man, he had never felt so low. Let's leave them be, came the silent order from the Hokage. The two were left alone. Kurenai held onto Naruto. Shish, she whispered weakly, everything is all right. No, it's not. His reply muffled, I did not keep my promise. My word is as good as mud, but worst of all, I failed you. I am no better than all those other men. Naruto, she nearly shouted. He refused to look up at her. With as much strength as she could, Kurenai tried to get him to look. Uzumaki Naruto, look at me. The woman ordered. Still the blonde refused. A weak sigh escaped her soft lips. Please, little one, look at me. This time she took a pleading tone with the blonde. However, this made him feel even worse. Slowly he craned his head upwards. With her left hand, she grabbed his chin. That way, he could not remove his gaze. Even in the darkly lit room, Kurenai could clearly see those precious blue orbs glancing away. Now she was a little peeved at his stubbornness. A resounding slap echoed throughout the room. Shock clearly evident on the male's face. After acquiring a hold on Naruto's chin again, his eyes finally met hers. Don't you ever say that again. She demanded, tears welling up in her eyes. You will never be like all those other men. I saw the worry, the fear, the pain on your face when I was being beaten. None of those other men would show those emotions openly. The most they would do is look on me in pity. Quote, she did not stop the tears from falling as she continued. I could see that you wanted me to stop, that I could possibly lose my life. It was my own stubbornness to prove myself to you, sniff, that I was stronger than I used to be, sniff, that caused me to continue forward. It was my pride that caused my downfall. But I promised to protect you. Naruto shot back. I am only as good as my word and I did not keep it. I nearly. Though a little angered by the retort, she allowed him to finish. I nearly lost you. The finishing statement was barely above a whisper. But she heard it nonetheless. Naruto's eyes were cast down to the floor as tears started to flow again. Her breath caught in her throat as she reflected on the meaning of the statement. Kurenai gave a squeeze to his chin, signaling him to look her in the eyes. Blue irises shifted from one eye to the other. He watched in pain as more streams of liquid cascaded down her delicate face. Taking one arm from around her, he slowly wiped away the tears. When he finished, she grabbed onto his hand and held it against her cheek. "Forgive me, little one," she whispered. But a loving glare silenced his rebuttal. "I chose to continue even though I knew I would further injure myself. I refused to heed your warning, and I caused you agony. You showed that you cared merely by looking at me with worry. You are here when no one else is around, and it is you that give me strength to continue on." When she finished, she kissed him on the forehead. A blush instantly covered the male's face. "However, I am almost a full-grown woman. I will not always need my knight in shining armor. I am pretty capable of taking care of myself. Do you understand? Harem. Good." She smiled, wringing his head to rest on her collarbone again. As Kurenai's scent enveloped the male, his body fell into a trance-like state. Before long, he was sleeping soundly. After adjusting so both of them were comfortable, Kurenai also lost consciousness. "I guess I will wait until tomorrow. Don't wanna ruin the moment," a womanly voice echoed in the blonde's head. Several days later, Kurenai woke with a start. Within her dream, which turned out to be more like a nightmare, a large snake had cornered her in a dark room. The edges of its mouth appeared to have curved up, forming a sinister smile. Suddenly it reared its white-scaled head back and struck, fangs large and dripping with venom. As all nightmares end, the snake never reached the woman. "Naru?" she questioned, rubbing the sleep from her eyes. After hearing no response, she surveyed the hospital room. There was no familiar mop of blonde hair in sight. Where could have Naruto gone? Said male was strolling in the hospital garden and found out he was back in Konoha. The blonde recognized the smells and sights of his home village. His shoulder's pain was at a dull throbbing now. Naruto's pain medication was helping significantly. Where did that wolf come from? I have never heard of a summon animal without a contract, nor being able to appear without the specific hand signs. Is it even a summon at all? Well, you won't know until you do some research. A feminine voice broke his train of thought. I take it that you are the third path. It surprises me that you do not panic. Then again, you have come into contact with my two brothers. Though one of them seems to be distancing himself from everyone. Yeah, I basically broke my contract with him. Your word. I see, that will take a while to regain his trust. Anyway, that is not the reason I am here. Will you accept my pact? What is the price? Naruto countered. Bones, yours and those of your enemies. How will that work? I need those. True, but I just need some of your marrow to construct my form. Then I maintain it by draining it from those you fight. Naruto contemplated the implications. This could be very painful, but this weapon could be extremely useful. Painful? He asked. Very much so. After listening to the birds singing in the garden, the genin gave his answer. Bring it. Naruto felt the weapon smile in his mind. Let's begin. At first the blonde felt nothing. But that moment was fleeting. Instantly his hand and knees were driven into the ground, forming small craters. Naruto's back started to arch painfully up as small spikes burst through his skin and hospital gown. Teeth ground together as the young male attempted to fight through the pain. Sweat flowed from his pores as the weapon moved out of his body at an agonizing pace. The small spikes finished exiting. Disc-like items followed. It came to the point in time where the boy was able to grab a hold of the protruding object near the base of his back. A painful whimper exited his throat as he pulled the item out. With each weak pull, another disc completely exited from his back. After 5 minutes of sprained pulling, Naruto found himself holding onto his own spine. What the? He tested the strength of the staff. Using the spinal item, Naruto picked himself off the ground. What is your name and what exactly are you? My brethren call me Hon Mitsukai. As for what I am, tap that spine staff on the ground. Bone Angel, the boy steadied himself before examining the spine. Lifting the 4-foot-long weapon into the air, Naruto slammed the tip into the ground. Instantly it lengthened itself to 7 feet long. A thought struck him. So if this is my spine, how am I able to stand? Good question, cutie. Mitsukai cooed. I took bits of marrow from all of your bones and created my form. That way no bone is too weak to support your weight. I just constructed myself in the form of your spine. Now, swing me. I see. Naruto stabilized the base of the staff with Hi's left hand and the middle with his right. He then flung it over his right shoulder. It spun around the appendage before being grabbed by the boy's hands. He continued to test its weight by performing a couple more flips and spins. With one more powerful swing, a scythe blade ejected from the head of the spine. Seconds later, a few of the trees in the garden slid down at an angle and fell over. Oops. Oh my Naru-kun, I love the way you handle me. The weapon cooed suggestively. Naruto blushed light pink before speaking again. Yeah, how do I hide you? Place me on your back. Once it came in contact with the skin, the searing pain returned. The only difference was that the weapon was ripping into his flesh instead of tearing out. It's not always going to be this painful, right? I hope not. I would get sick of your whining eventually. Hey, I highly doubt you know what it feels like. You have no idea, kid. After that comment, Mitsukai became deathly quiet. Naruto figured that she was no longer going to talk. So he returned to the shared hospital room. Kurenai was sleeping when he entered the room. Slowly the blonde male limped over to the side of the bed. Naruto had to hold back a chuckle. The red-eyed female was clutching the pillow he had used to her chest, like a teddy bear. Kurheim is so cute when she sleeps. His hand moved strands of hair out of the woman's face. This movement caused her neck to be revealed to the caring blonde. Guilt instantly assaulted his heart. There, upon her neck, was a bruise encircling the entire area. That boa constrictor had really done considerable damage. Hesitantly, 2 fingers lightly brushed the injury. Each stroke brought forth another wave of heartache. If I ever face that Anko person, I will do more than just clip her fangs. Naruto subconsciously promised himself. A warm sensation quickly brought the boy out of his internal rampage. Kurenai had grabbed a hold of the hand that stroked her neck and held it to her face. The young male instantly blushed. The woman's skin was smooth and warm, her hand also being very similar. Still she slept on. Absent-mindedly Naruto began to stroke her cheek with his thumb. This CA used a tiny smile to grace his maiden's lips. In the Hokage's office, Sarutobi had finished most of his paperwork for that morning. Due to this fact, the elderly man went to an old bookshelf. Each ECE of literature appeared relatively normal in topic, except for one. After pulling the scripture out of its place, the wall shifted, moved, and silently revealed a secret room. The new room was lined with more bookshelves. Each containment unit possessed hundreds of scrolls, manuscripts, and the Hokage's personal collection of orange-covered books. I have to reread the series to refresh my old memory on Jiraiya's storyline. No, I cannot get distracted right now. Now where are those scrolls on the Uehi clan? Maybe this whole guardian thing runs in Kurenai's family. The Hokage searched for a couple hours before locating one scroll on the entire family. Gently the man pulled the scroll from the cobwebs and lightly dusted it off. It appeared that the item had been quickly deteriorating, much faster than it should be. There is a stasis seal on this entire room. No scroll in here should be damaged. Unless, Sarutobi nearly ripped the scroll open and caught a glimpse of a strange series of symbols. A destruction seal, Orochimaru's personal one. With a couple hand seals and blood, the Hokage removed the accursed brand. He was not known as the professor for nothing. Nearly 70% of the contents had been erased. A heavy sigh escaped the aged man's throat as he collapsed into his chair. Well, I might as well see what I can salvage from this situation. 3 hours later, a loud smack sound echoed throughout the office. Sarutobi had read the scroll over and over but had only found tidbits of information. The Uehi clan had moved to Konoha from a distant land only a few or more decades ago. However, the tampered scroll had no information on the possible family guardian summoned. The man pinched the bridge of his nose in frustration. What else could Maida Guy Burr Saint through the doors with his dynamic entry, effectively interrupted the aged ninja. Oh great. Oh magnificent Hokage. I have an urgent request to make. Said Shinobi sighed before answering the over-enthusiastic man. Lower your voice, Maida-san. What is it? Gomen Hokage-sama, my request is corresponding to possibly entering my students into the Chunin exams. Really? Aren't they a little young for such a dangerous test? They may be young Hokage-sama, but they are all quite fluent in their given areas. Naruto-kun seems to be well versed in kenjutsu and ninjutsu. Lee-kun, my most youthful student, is extremely proficient in my personal style of taijutsu. As for Ten-Ten-chan, her kenjutsu skills are mid-range chunin at least. I know without a doubt that my youthful students will surpass everyone. If he says youthful one more time, Sarutobi reined in his unfavorable thoughts before answering. If you say that they are capable, then I will allow it. The next chunin exams will be occurring 4 months from now. You know what to do, Gai-san. Now, is that all? Hi Hokage-sama. Then you are dismissed. Gai bowed respectfully before stating one more thing. Have a youthful day, sir. The man then proceeded to jump out the window. A smack sound echoed throughout the office as the elder ninja slammed his head against his desk. The next day, Naruto and Kurenai had been released from the hospital. The blonde's wounds had fully healed, but the red-eyed maiden was given a 2-week recovery period. Rin refused to let her best friend continue to work after having such a horrendous experience. Still, since Kurenai had gotten the promotion to Junin, Kakashi and Rin decided to host a congratulatory party. Only close friends had been invited. Itachi, Gai, Ruruka, and Naruto's team were those lucky few. After a couple hours, Itachi had to leave due to his little brother also receiving a promotion to Genin. So the kids that are my age finally graduated. I wonder how the teams will turn out. Ruruka was also quick to leave. The excuse being that he had to go home and prepare his graduation speech and get all the test results input into the Konoha database. Once the Chunin had left the apartment, Gai decided to announce something unbelievable. You finally found a girlfriend. The blonde Genin shot with a smirk, earning snickers from all those present. No, Gai bellowed. I have decided to nominate you 3 for the Chunin exams. Each of his students instantly began to contemplate this announcement's impact on their goals. Lee decided to be the only one to vocalize his thoughts. Soon I will prove to the world that I do not need anything but my youthful taijutsu. Yosh, that's the way to think. The 2 carbon copies ran towards each other, arms spread wide, and tears falling down their faces. Oh crap, everyone mentally shrieked. Kakashi, being a relatively quick strategist, skillfully reversed the impending situation. Gai, there is no time for that. You must get to training him for the exams. Yosh, you are correct, my eternal rival. Come Lee. Green beasts away. Both taijutsu users leapt from the window and ran off into the sunset. That was too. Oh close, Kakashi sighed before returning to the chair beside Rin. Naruto sat quietly while the last party-goers conversed. If the Chunin exam was in a month or 2, his team would be on a mission hiatus. That amount would allow him sufficient training time. The blonde was interrupted by Tenten's announcement that she needed to return home. Tell Hagane-sama hi for me. I will, Naruto-kun. She smiled, bowed politely to everyone, and proceeded to leave. Once the young Kunoichi was gone, Itachi suddenly appeared. Kakashi, Rin, Kurenai, Hokage's office immediately. Without another word all 4 Junin vanished. Since Naruto was left by himself, he decided to begin his Chunin exam training. After all, he needed to get a better grasp on using Kaigashin and possibly become more fluent in the use of his newly acquired scythe. However, Naruto sat on the floor, crossed his legs and entered his mindscape. Hokage's office. The elder shinobi scanned the room, counting the number of present ninja. After the last Chunin entered, Itachi cast a silence genjutsu upon the room. The Uchiha gave Sarutobi a nod stating all was well. This Chunin exam is going to monumental. I do not believe any of you understand the gravity of the situation. It was not until the Hokage noticed the serious expressions on everyone's faces that he continued the announcement. The head samurai and his most trusted bodyguards are going to be in attendance this time. All jaws hit the ground. Kakashi was quick to recover from the shock. Hokage-sama, what is the meaning of this? Within the past year I have been receiving and sending letters with the samurai nation. They are set on forming an alliance, more like a ceasefire between our warriors. Ryazaki, the head samurai, specifically requested permission to attend the Chunin exams to see the strength of our nation. If our little ones can prove themselves to him, he will sign the treaty. Sarutobi let the information sink in. After a moment of silence from the audience, the elderly man continued. It is imperative that no one shows any hostility towards the samurai. They have staked their honor on not attacking or causing any problems with our ninja. Samurai may have been our bitter enemies, but they are honorable to a fault. They will be our honored guests and will be treated as such. If any of you cause any problems, you will be facing my wrath and the Anbu interrogation squad. Is that clear? OSSU. The entire crowd called out. If you have any questions, please ask them now. The Hokage ordered. Should we tell the genins who are participating in the Chunin exams? A random Chunin asked. No. The genin will not find out until third stage and after everyone has fought the first round. This will take off any unnecessary pressure upon their shoulders. If there is nothing else, you are all dismissed. Within seconds, the room was empty except for Itachi, Kurenai, Rin, and Kakashi. Did you not hear my last statement? Sarutobi asked. We did, but something is bothering us. Rin spoke up. And that would be. Kurenai shifted her weight before boldly speaking. It just does not make sense that they would want a ceasefire at this point in time. Not only that, but why only Konoha? Ninja and samurai have always been bitter enemies. Hate has been ingrained from generation to generation. Ryazaki never came out and told me exactly why he wants a ceasefire or a treaty for that matter. I believe he might be looking for something, maybe even someone. However, that is my personal impression. Do not dwell on the matter too much. Return home and prepare for the Chunin exams. We have 2 months. After a resounding, "Hi," the Junin exited the office. 5 minutes later with Naruto. Said blonde sat in the middle of the floor as he contemplated his training regime. Mitsukai and Kagishin constantly gave him suggestions on what he could do. Suddenly Kakashi came bursting through the door. I hate meetings, the man mumbled. Was it anything important? Kakashi contemplated releasing the information but decided against it. Hokage-sama just wants us to be our best behavior during the Chunin exams. You know, want to make a good impression on the other Kages who are going to be in attendance. Naruto nodded in confirmation. Is the Hokage free now? Yep. The Junin was interrupted by the boy's disappearance. That Gaki is getting quicker. Hokage's office. Sarutobi flinched as a blonde blur crashed through the office window and collided with all the paperwork on his desk. A vein quickly developed upon the wrinkled forehead. It took me all morning to sign in categories those, he better have a good reason for destroying my entire day's work. Gigi. The genin yelled with a smile, I need a place where I can train so that my chakra cannot be sensed. Also, I need a place that can handle a lot of stress. Let me get this straight. You need a training area that can handle destructive forces and where no one will be able to find you. Exactly. Naruto, there is only one place that you could possibly do that in. Awesome. Where? Where is it? Training ground 13. Come, he paused. I will have to personally take you to it. 3 miles from Konoha. Both ninja were walking in a dense forest, light barely able to peer through the leaves. Now Naruto, if you go in there, you will not be allowed to come out until the Chunin exams. So I will be here for 2 months. The boy indicated the foliage around him. No, the Hokage stated. You will be in here for 2 months. The elder's foot slammed into the ground, sending earth and trees everywhere. After the dust cleared, Naruto came face to face with a gaping tunnel entrance. It was easily a staggering 20 by 30 foot wide opening. Once the initial shock passed, Naruto became serious. So you will come open it back up in 2 months? The blonde questioned. Yes, I will. Then I will see you then, Gigi. Naruto turned and entered the deep cavern before it locked him in. Darkness ensnared every sense. As time passed by, the environment became more distinguishable. He was in a long hallway. Might as well start trying to find the main room. The blonde male sighed before starting his journey down the tunnel. It might have been 20 minutes before even beginning to see a speck of light at the end. Still, he trudged on. The closer he got to the light, the more another presence became detectable. Someone or something else is here. Kagishin, do you sense anything? The blade remained quiet for a few seconds before responding. I do not know what it is. But I am sensing a lot of blood. I will proceed with caution then. The blonde voiced aloud. Kagishin instantly materialized before Naruto jumped into the light. A defend. Sieve's stance was taken as eyes adjusted to the abnormal amount of illumination. A massive domed ceiling hung overhead, connected to the floor by black walls. The floor was smooth and helped the light dissipate into the giant room. There was a doorway on the far side of the space, but due to the distance, Naruto could not read the message inscribed upon its surface. That presence is gone, as if it never existed. Well, I will leave you out for now. I have business with Tenshu. Keep watch. Hi and good luck. Thanks. Entering the lotus position, Naruto began to recede into his mindscape. It too. Okay, several minutes to completely calm himself, but once he did, the outside world faded entirely. Naruto's mindscape. The first thing the genin noticed was the sewer-like structure of his mind. Well, this place sucks already, I have some renovating to do. After a minute or two passed, the pipeline transformed into a style of a house's hallway. Thanks for the upgrade there, Naru-kun, came a sultry voice from behind him. Naruto whipped around to face the owner of the voice and was greeted by a beautiful woman, around 28 years of age. She had bleached blonde hair that ran all the way to the small of her back. The bangs were pulled up and braided across her temples. She wore a simple sleeveless, cotton dress that hugged her midsection but flowed out from her waist. Dark purple eyes scanned the weapon wielder. A finger placed on the bottom lip as she contemplated her owner. The male stood there with his mouth agape. You're staring, master. She blushed slightly. Mitsukai. Yep. But, how? The male stammered. Because we are symbiotic, we share a mental occupation. This, she giggled motioning to her body, is merely a representation of me in your mindscape. So all of you have one. Correct. We also have our own rooms, so to speak. Then can you show me to Tenshu's? Of course. It's this way. Mitsukai skipped down a long hallway. Naruto walked after her, chuckling at her childish antics. As he started after the other blonde, he noticed an enormous door out of the corner of his eye. Turning to face it, Naruto came face to face with the 20-story gateway. He reached to touch it. But Mitsukai's voice broke his train of thought. Naru-sama, are you coming? I am. The male answered back. The moment he turned around, Naruto could have sworn he heard a threatening growl. Pushing the thought aside, he raced down the hallway. Together, the two traversed the winding hallways. Eventually the woman stopped in front of 3 doors. One was shadowed over. Must be Kagishin's, the boy guessed. Hi. Mitsukai's bubbly replied. The one next to the Nodashi's must be Tenshu's. It was simple sliding door, but there were multiple black chains barring the way. Naruto turned the side, seeing her attempting to hide her door. What? The boy asked. Do even think of asking to come in, she warned with a glare that changed to a playful smile. Only when you have earned your way, Naruto-sama. Naruto blushed as did Mitsukai. She then quickly retreated into her room with a quick, good luck. The blonde male then sat down in front of the chained door. He layered his mind and merely sat there in silence. Since he was currently in his mind, Naruto did not know how much time really passed until Tenshu grew irritated enough to break the silence. What is it that you want? The large blade basically yelled. Reconciliation, the blonde responded without opening his eyes. A heavy sigh escaped the blade's lips. Fine, you may enter. The door slid open, allowing the boy to cross the threshold. Naruto was greeted with the sight of a man, fully clothed in a standard judo suit, sitting upon his knees. Tenshu was a broad man with dark hair. Currently his head was bowed. Appearing to be meditating, the blonde genin sat cross-legged in front of the powerful weapon. Both males sat in a pregnant silence for at least an hour before Tenshu spoke. What are you proposing we do about our current predicament? What? Naruto questioned, not exactly understanding the point Tenshu was trying to get across. A sigh escaped the older man's lips as he raised his head. The genin's eyes widened in shock. A gruesome scar started above the sword's left eye, curved over the cheek, and ended at the chin. Naruto said nothing, waiting for Tenshu to explain his last statement. Truth be told, you need me as much as I do and I hate sitting around doing nothing. However, I will not return to you without a price. What do I need to give you this time? Your left eye. Naruto opened his mouth, but the sword instantly responded, I will not take it from you. Basically I will be implanting myself in your eye. I will be able to see what you see and the like. Cool. I would gladly accept. You will be able to give me more detailed information on how to wield you and the other blades. But mark my words, Uzumaki, you break your word one more time, and I will make sure that I annihilate any chance of you ever being a ninja again. Do I make myself clear? Crystal clear. Now, let's go. Naruto. Get out here quick. Kageshin yelled through the mental link. Suddenly a blood-freezing roar penetrated the every nook and cranny of the mindscape. I have heard that roar before. Tenshu thought to himself as Naruto vanished. Outside Naruto's mind, the Nodashi ripped from the ground as Naruto slashed at the opponent. The mysterious attack vanished into the darkness of the hallway. Slowly, the blonde male began to pop his bones and stretch his muscles. 2 hours had passed in the real world, so his body was sore. After positioning everything back in place, Naruto glared into the darkness, Kageshin at the ready. It did not take too long for a pair of crimson orbs to appear. Refusing to even blink, he shifted to a defensive stance. Kageshin was clutched with both hands, the blade curved over his head and left shoulder. The instant the blade touched the ground by Naruto's left foot, a silver streak tore from the hallway. Upon seeing movement, Kageshin's tip was thrust into the ground. The silver blur ricocheted off the long blade, sending a significant shockwave through Naruto's body. This thing is powerful and fast. Naruto. Here it comes again, Kageshin yelled. The blonde flipped over the embedded weapon to deflect another assault. After yanking the blade free, Naruto sprinted around the room, attempting to get some kind of indication of what exactly was attacking. Well, if I can't get it through defense, I best go into offense. Just so you know, Fishcake, Tenshu's voice rang. I will not be available for a few more minutes. A nod signified that he heard. Once again Naruto deflected an attack, and tried a countermeasure with the Nodashi. Kiloton slash. The chakra blade tore through the ground like paper. However, it missed the intended target, taking a large chunk of the wall with it. Dust and debris spread over the battlefield. And both opponents waited for their vision to clear. Once it had settled, Naruto gasped in horror. Right before his eyes was none other than the silver wolf that had saved Kurenai. What reason have I given you to attack me? The boy demanded. It roared its response, echoing throughout his head. The blonde removed one hand to steady the pounding headache. Sorry, but I don't speak wolf. The metallic animal seemed to understand, and sent a heated glare. It appeared to be looking down on the boy, as though he was not good enough. Naruto was barely able to decipher the meaning. So you are Kurenai's guardian angel. The joke did not sit well with the feral dog. It became a silver blur again as it struck out in anger. Naruto ducked just in time to watch its claw nearly take his head off. Unter slammed into the wolf's diving form, effectively launching the metallic animal upwards. Kageshin vanished, replaced by Naruto's newest weapon. Mitsukai called out in joy when the male grasped the handle firmly. Not now, Mitsukai-chan. Sorry, later then. Fine, a heavy sigh escaping his lips. Naruto then proceeded to jump after the stunned wolf. After flicking the scythe's blade out, he hooked it around the animal's body. The male groaned as he began to swing the heavy beast in a giant circle. The stagnant air swirled, twisted, and created a mini cyclone of debris the faster he spun. Once obtaining the maximum momentum, Naruto released his opponent with tremendous force. The resounding explosion of the impact nearly destroyed the floor. Debris and dust once again found itself occupying the area. I hope it's done now, Naruto sighed, landing softly, a little winded and off balance. I love the way you handle me, master. Mitsukai teased, causing a blush on the young man's face. Naruto suddenly heard a whimper of pain coming from the giant cloud of dust. His shoulders sagged as he released a heavy sigh. It was done. Naruto. Tenshu yelled. It was too late. The silver beast tore through the dust and clamped down on the boy's left shoulder. Teeth scrapped against bones in his collar, back and chest. A scream of agony pierced the battlefield as the animal continued to clamp down harder on the shoulder. Both combatants collapsed. Tenshu. Activate me. The gauntlet cried. The familiar metallic armor began to slither up the man's arm. However, the gauntlet was much slower in forming than before. What is wrong, Tenshu? It's so slow. Naruto stated through gritted teeth. It's been a while since you used me, our sync rate must be low. Naruto then decided to use what was available. His left arm was utterly useless, so he only had one more option. As the weapon continued to form, the boy sent a chakra-enhanced fist towards the wolf's head. Thankfully the thing released just in time to evade. The shift of weight threw Naruto off balance and the fist collided with the floor. At first nothing happened, but after a few seconds, an enormous crater indented the ground. From the point of impact, spider-web cracks raced across the room, barely stopping before the wall. Naruto, with heavy breaths, pulled himself up. Blood flowed from the punctures. His body gone to go numb as everything faded from his vision. No. The blondes will alone, keeping him conscious. I refuse to lose. Kageshin. The unspoken command was easily caught by the Nodashi. Hi. T. He long blade materialized into Naruto's right hand. Instantly the blood stopped flowing from the wounds. Even the crimson puddles on the ground beckoned its master's wordless orders. Gather. Crimso. Liquid swirled around the blade and the wielder. The wolf's metallic lips curled back into a snarl as it prepared for the oncoming attack. Naruto called out the technique in a dual voice, Crimson Willow. The blood collected over Naruto's body. Slowly it formed a makeshift tree trunk and spread out to branches. Tendrils of red cascaded off the branches. A weeping willow tree finally finished forming. The size of the plant was staggering. After its completion, it covered the entire space of the room. Naruto released one more word, initiating the attack. Shatter. Wind seemed to disturb the crimson tendrils before the whipped around wildly. Eventually the parts of tree broke apart and started rotating around the area. The wolf watched as one of the leaves touched the wall. Instantaneously a large gash appeared. The sudden jump of movement showed Naruto that the animal understood what would happen if it was touched. The tiny blades rotated faster. 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 The speed was so great that the entire room was engulfed with crimson blurs. Gashes tore apart the ceiling, floor, and wall. Nothing was safe from the blood storm. Even debris was ripped apart. A few of the petals were able to graze the animal, effectively slicing it. A howl of pain exited its mouth, a heated glare directed at the blonde. The two opponents held their respective glares before the wolf ran into the howl. Elway and its entire existence vanished from the immediate area. With a sigh of relief Naruto collapsed to the ground exhausted. The jutsu soon disappeared afterwards. Naruto, I will seal up your wounds as best as I can. Thanks Kageshin. Get some rest fishcake, we might have lost a day of training but we still have quite a bit of time to recover and improve. Tenshu stated. Yeah, the female weapon exclaimed. We will show everyone just how powerful our master is. With that said and done, Naruto drifted from the realm of consciousness. 2 months later, Sarutobi stood at the entrance to the hidden training ground. As the earth began to shift and open, Naruto's chakra signature became detectable. Worry quickly set in as the elder Hokage noticed the lack of strength that it normally possessed. Before the man could sprint into the tunnel, a tuft of blonde hair appeared. The boy was limping and covered in chakra burn marks. Naruto. The man called in worry as the boy collapsed. For as old as he was, Sarutobi was quick to grab the boy and teleport to the nearest medical facility. 15 minutes late at the hospital, Naruto awoke to the sound of machines buzzing and beeping away. I guess I might have taken it a little too far that last day, the boy murmured. Naru-kun, are you okay? Mitsukai whined. Yes, I am quite alright. Naruto took in his surroundings. He appeared to be in a special room in the hospital. The walls were not the normal static white. A light blue paint covered the surface. A large chair displayed his fighting attire, and the bed he rested upon was exceptionally soft. It was calming. It was then the boy noticed the many tubes and IVs in his body. I hate needles. Instantly every metal protrusion shot out. Kageshin then began the healing process. Much better. After escaping from his fabric confines, Naruto removed his hospital gown and started to clothe himself. Once his pants were fastened around his waist, the blonde stared at the position of the sun. According to its current position, it was roughly around 3 o'clock. So the Chunin exams will be tomorrow. He stated to no one in particular. That is correct, little one. A feminine voice sang. Kurheim, Naruto breathed, feeling her presence and said encircle him. The blonde turned to face his precious person and she gasped. Even though he was only 10, the boy had better muscular definition than most Chunin men. However, that is not what caught her attention the most. There was a large U-shaped scar upon his upper left chest. The closer she inspected, the more she noticed that it was made up of punctures. What happened while you were training? She gasped, covering her mouth. Did an animal attack him? It looks like a bite mark. Naruto closed the distance betway. And the two and embraced the crimson-eyed beauty. Let's just say that I was not the only one there. A sigh escaped his throat as her addicting scent assaulted his being. Naruto did not want to tell about the attacker being the very same wolf that had protected her in the Junin exams. But do not worry, the blonde looked her straight in the eye before continuing, I defeated the beast and was still able to become stronger during my absence. Trusting the man was not a problem for Kurenai, but she sensed that he withheld information from her. This was most likely to cause her not to worry. So she decided to let his answer satisfy her curiosity for now. Suddenly, Naruto took the woman's hands into his own, head bowed down. An adorable blush encased his countenance as a stream of intelligible words exited the genin's mouth. I'm sorry little one, but I didn't understand what you said. She cheerfully giggled. This only proved to further embarrass the young male. With what courage he was gifted with at the moment. The blonde's gaze bore right into those crimson orbs. I only have one more promotion to go. Naruto basically yelled. Now it was Kurenai's turn to blush. He did only have one more level to go before she would allow them to date. Being a genjutsu master, Kurenai was very aware of the stress Naruto was going through right now. His hands were sweaty, gripping tightly onto hers. She could sense his erratic heartbeat through the thumb. Kurenai's little one was looking for a reply of some sort. After reining in her raging emotions, she took a calming deep breath. You are correct Naruto, and as of yet, there still lacks a suitable male to court me. She saw and felt his body relax. Do you honestly think I would not tell you if I was considering someone? Kurenai smiled sweetly. You would be one of the first people I would reveal him to, just so you can make sure he is acceptable. Naruto smiled back. It meant the world that she would make sure he knew. Not only that, but he would also get the opportunity to decide if the lowly man was good enough for his harem. Now Naruto, can you do something for me? She questioned, a light blush adorning her face. Naruto found it very cute and only nodded. He did not trust his voice at that moment. Can you put on a shirt? I don't want anyone to come in here and see that scar of yours. It might warrant some unwanted questions. Naruto's mischievous side suddenly presented itself. Are you sure harem? Judging by the drool, you prefer it to be off. He teased with a smirk. The woman stammered, a full blush taking control of her features. A laugh escaped Naruto's throat as he retrieved his shirt. You sure? The boy teased again. Yes, she stammered, an indignant look upon her face. Once again the blonde found himself laughing. His shirt was now on, albeit a little tight. Naruto paid it no mind and went to put on his Nodashi vest. No matter how hard he tried, the blonde could not get the 4 silver clasps to click. I think you grew again little one. Kurenai smirked. I thought so too. After all, I think I'm taller than you now. The corners of his mouth curved up. Kurenai refused to believe that, and she closed the distance. She measured once, twice, thrice. I can't believe it. She pouted, folding her arms. I do have to look up to you now. Naruto was now a couple inches taller than her. A chuckle filled the room as arms wrapped around the genjutsu mistress. I'm sorry, but I refuse to be smaller than you. He then brought his mouth to her ear. After all, hot breath struck her ear, effectively sending a shiver down her spine. How can I protect you properly if I cannot shield you entirely? Answer me that hime. Once again she shivered at his warm breath. Naru, she stuttered in a Hinata-like fashion. Naruto's chest rumbled as he laughed. Now, if you will excuse me. I have more than just a vest to earn. The male placed a quick peck on her cheek before jumping out the window. Kurenai watched the man leave, frozen to her spot. Suddenly realization hit her. He never checked out. She proceeded to jump after him, but she could neither see him nor sense his chakra within the immediate area. Meanwhile with Naruto, said blonde was jumping from roof to roof aiming to go home quickly. After all, he needed to get new clothes. Though it was a little hard to concentrate with Mitsukai screaming in his ear about what he just did to Kurenai. Oh Naru-kun, you're so mischievous. Your little Haim-chan blushed so hard. Kawaii, she squealed. Mitsu, quiet down, Tenshu ordered. You're just jealous of my Naruto-chan's ability to seduce his woman, she cooed. A blush soon adorned Naruto's face at what the side was implying. She isn't my woman yet, Mitsukai. I need to pass this exam and get promoted before I have the chance to say that. But, hey you, a gruff voice called out. Naruto noticed some men standing on the ground. Taking hold of a post, Naruto changed his trajectory to the ground. Upon realizing who these men were, the boy was instantly on guard. Samurai. With the Hokage. The elder man sighed heavily as he worked on the bane of his existence, paperwork. Suddenly he looked out the window. His eyes grew wide upon realizing the time. Ryazaki will be here soon. With speed greater than anyone would expect, Sarutobi was dressed in the traditional cage robes. His secretary nearly had a heart attack as both doors were flung open with tremendous force. A red and white blur shot in front of her, scattering all the paperwork she had just organized. Back with Naruto. Naruto was frozen in place. There were 10 samurai occupying the space in front of him. So many questions entered his mind. What were samurai doing in Konoha? How did they get past the gate without the alarm going off? Why are there only 10 of them? There were many more, but it was of no importance compared to the enemies before him. Naruto decided to assess the grow up and hopefully figure out why they were here. One appeared to be the leader based on his seasoned and aged look. To his right stood a man with a beard that started at his sideburns and wrapped around his chin to end at the other sideburn. This man intrigued Naruto to the most. He possessed a standard array of the traditional samurai armor. 3 swords hung from his belt. Each one varied in length and thickness. What caught his attention the most were a set of trench knives clinging to the man's forearms. The other 8 samurai he paid no attention. Ninja tools, on a samurai. The boy thought, slowly taking a neutral, yet defensive stance. What business do you have in Konoha? He primed his muscles so that they would be ready to make a move if it became necessary. A pregnant silence hung over the 2 factions before the 3 sword-wielding man spoke. What is your rank, Shinobi-san? A deep baritone exited the man's throat. I am a genin samurai-san. The elder man chuckled slightly before speaking. It appears Sarutobi-sama decided to not let the genin know of our arrival. Naruto tensed at the statement. Your arrival? Are you here for the Chunin exams? The boy narrowed his eyes. Correct, Gaki. One of the other 8 spoke. This got a glare from the blonde, effectively shutting said offender up. My name is Uzumaki Naruto, not Gaki. A laugh split the tension in the eye. As the elder samurai put his hands up as a sign of neutrality. Well, Uzumaki Naruto, since you were so kind to offer us your name, I will introduce myself. Seeing Naruto visibly relax, the man continued. My name is Ryazaki. I am the head samurai in the ice village. The man you were analyzing a while back is my right-hand man Asuma. At that, said male bowed respectfully to Naruto. Though it was a bit awkward. Naruto returned the gesture. If what the old guy said was true, the boy was walking on thin ice. One wrong move could potentially start an unneeded conflict, maybe even war. Forgive my ignorance, Ryazaki Dono. Another laugh filled the air. You are in the right for your previous actions. It is quite rare for samurai and shinobi to meet on friendly terms. Naruto nodded in understanding. If I may, to make up for my past rudeness, escort you to Hokage-sama personally. That would be, Ryazaki began. Unnecessary, Uzumaki-san. Another elderly voice rang, slightly winded. Ah, Sarutobi-sama. It's an honor to finally meet you in person. The head samurai greeted. The feeling is mutual, Ryazaki-sama. I see you have met one of our most promising genin already. Naruto was shocked at the blatant praise from the Hokage. Really? Then I definitely look forward to the tournament portion of the Chunin exams. I will be sure to give you a show when I fight. The blonde confirmed. Now, I need to excuse myself. I have some preparations to take care of before I start the exams. Naruto bowed politely to all the samurai present before disappearing with a burst of speed. Yuzaki's countenance morphed from playful to business-oriented state. Hokage-sama, I believe we have a lot to discuss while we wait for the tournament. You are correct. Please follow me and we will continue where we left off last time. Quote. Without another word, the 2 powerful men walked in step, the other 9 samurai falling in suite. With Naruto, he stopped by his house to change before leaping from rooftop to rooftop. Eventually he jumped over a wall and into the forest. Tree after tree whipped past the boy as he sped towards training ground 18. This was the closest one and it would serve his purpose. After sitting on the ground, Naruto focused on storing up a high amount of chakra before calling out the technique. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 15 clones suddenly popped up and looked directly at their creator, waiting for instructions. Walking up to each individual clone, Naruto whispered specific instructions. Without a word, the carbon copies jumped off into the distance. After the last clone had disappeared, Naruto sensed a strike coming in from the sky and jumped away. The opponent slammed into the earth, sending debris and dust into the air. A barrage of kunai flew from the smoke following up the previous attack. Naruto noticed a space wide enough for him to slip through the assault unharmed. He took it, but a figure burst from the dust. As the weapons flew harmlessly by, the blonde realized he was stuck. A punch sent him flying across the training ground. Another volley of kunai shot from the surrounding trees, closely followed by the mysterious attacker. Crap, there's two of them. Naruto started focusing a large amount of chakra into his chest. Within seconds it was dense enough for his intended purpose. Quickly he shifted the chakra from his chest to his right foot as he raised it off the ground. The blonde called out his technique while sending his foot into the earth. Kill it and drop. Large slabs of earth rose. Each slab slammed into each other, protecting the blonde genin from harm. The technique was not done though. Naruto's opponents heard a quiet murmuring from within the pyramid-like stone defense. Suddenly one wall exploded in a storm of earth chunks. Every shard flew dangerously towards the two. The taijutsu user punched through the earth and brought up a giant root to protect himself and the kenjutsu user from a second barrage of projectiles. Once the assault had ceased, both combatants looked around the root, hoping to spot their single target. You two have definitely gotten better since the last time we were together. Lead Tenten. Yash. Naruto-kun, your flames of youth are astounding. Tenten sighed before greeting her second teammate with a smile. Lee continued to spout about youthfulness in the background. It is good to see you again, Naruto-kun. Likewise. How was training with your dad? It was great. I learned about 5 new techniques and my accuracy is almost unmatched by anyone. She cheered. Good, now I do believe that. Dynamic entry. A deep, but loud voice shouted. The new arrival's foot collided with Lee's face. Once again dust and debris obstructed the area. Yash, Lee-kun, you need to be more aware of your surroundings. Hi Guy-sensei. Forgive my ignorance. For my lack of ability I will meditate for 3 days straight. Yash, how youthful of you. Guy yelled. Lee. Guy-sensei. Lee. Okay, I'm out of here, Naruto drawled. Knowing where this would end up going. Capturing Tenten's hand with his left, he began to drag her away because she was too horrified to move. Guy saw them leaving. And stopped the hug session immediately. A kick from the Junin stopped against Naruto's forearm. A resounding smack of flesh on flesh echoed throughout the clearing. It appears you have gotten stronger, Naruto, the man whispered. Only a little, Guy-sensei. I am far from where I want to be, but I am slowly making progress. If you have anything you would like to tell us, please do so now. It's getting late and we all need our rest for tomorrow. You are correct, team. Tomorrow you will all receive the chance to earn the title of Chunin. Granted, this is no easy task. Every aspect of you, art character and ninja prowess will be tested to the fullest. Lee scooted closer to his idol, a blazing looking of determination resonating within his being. Truth be told, I do not care if you are awarded the title or not. All I care about is that you try your best. Prove your dreams to those in attendance and to yourselves. Hi. The 3 chorused. Now, you 3 will need to meet in room 301 at the academy at 10 a.m. tomorrow. With that said and done, the spandex-clad male jumped off. Naruto turned to his comrades. Alright team, here's what's going down tomorrow. The next day, Naruto sat on the academy's roof, simply taking a nap in the morning sun. It was currently 9:30 a.m. and the blonde sensed Tenten land upon the rooftop. Morning, Naruto called, not opening his eyes. Good morning to you as well, Naruto-kun. The two sat in silence. That is, Tenten sat in silence. Naruto conversed with his weapons while he waited. Naru-sama, I am so excited. Will you be handling me during the exams? Mitsukai asked. It depends. He said truthfully. Kageshin and Tenshu are the two that a couple people have seen. If I am fighting a group by myself, then I probably will. However, due to your specific capabilities, I prefer to use you only when I have to kill an opponent. The Junin have seen Kageshin and rare glimpses of Tenshu. You, however, have yet to be seen. I would like to keep it that way too. He could hear the disappointment in her voice as she whined. This sucks. Do not worry, Mitsu-chan. If I am allowed to be a Chunin, you will definitely be coming out more. It was at this point that Lee appeared. Without an exchange of greetings, Naruto and company dropped from the roof onto the third floor. Guy appeared before them as they approached the room to the first part of the exam. Hello Guy-sensei. They chorused. Hello Naruto, Lee, Tenten. I believe all of you are prepared enough. All I have left to say is good luck. A quick salute and all three genin entered the room. Instantly every head turned to look at the new arrivals. Glares bore into the younger ninja. Naruto shrugged off the heated stares before taking a seat in the corner. His teammates soon joined him. Try not to draw any attention to us. The less the competition knows, the better, the blonde genin stated in a hushed tone. Minutes passed and more teams entered the room. A lot of them were young Konoha teams. A lot of the newly arrived teams placed their focus upon Naruto and his group. After varied eye contact, the other team would cockily smirk. This blatant arrogance kept producing a frown on Tenten's face. After it had happened for the third time, said weapon expert reached for a kunai. She would wipe those smirks off their faces. However, when she reached her kunai pouch, she didn't grab the intended weapon, but a hand. It was Naruto's. Tenten, calm down, he commanded. There is no need to cause friendly fire just yet. At this point in time, a group of Junin and Chunin entered the room. After looking over the 100 teams that occupied the room, the assumed proctor spoke. Welcome to the Chunin selection exam. A man that Naruto recognized was the said speaker. Itachi is going to be the proctor. The boy mentally cursed. Said Uchiha then began to explain the rules for the first part of the Chunin exams, a written test. Each person began with 10 points. If the question is answered incorrectly, 1 point is deducted. 2 points are deducted when a participant is caught cheating. Wait, when a participant is caught cheating? Tenten deduced. She sent a look to her teammates. Apparently both males had come to the same conclusion. Not only that, but when anyone on your team loses all 10 points, the entire team has to retire from the exams and will have to try again next year. But be careful how you answer these questions. It could possibly affect you further on in this exam. After he finished his explanation, Itachi held a box with a small hole in it. Now, form a line and pick a number. Whichever number you pick, that is the seat you will have. It took 10 minutes for all the contestants to withdraw their number from the box. Once everyone was seated, Itachi had the Chunin helpers of the exam pass them out. It was at this time that Naruto noticed exactly who he was sitting by. Naruto was completely surrounded by women. On his left was a young female with bright blonde hair and a fair complexion. She was moderate in body size, and had a cute quality about her. However, to his right, to say the least, was a woman. She was possibly around the age of 18. This was based upon how far more developed she was than the other contestants of the female gender. She possessed medium auburn hair pulled into high ponytail. Her NGS were long and covered one of her bright green eyes. She wore a black form-fitting Chinese battle dress that covered her deep cream-colored skin. However, the top of the dress was open to reveal an ample amount of skin and cleavage. Out of the corner of his eye, Naruto could make out her long, slender legs. On the end of those toned legs, were a pair of stiletto shinobi boots that stopped 3/4 of the way up her shin. I would not want to be kicked by those. The blonde instantly thought. Those heels could probably punch a hole through steel. Naruto's sweat dropped as he noticed a low T of the male participants were drooling over this beautiful specimen. Even some of the Chunin helpers couldn't keep their eyes off her. Typical men, Naruto thought. Then again, this could be one of her techniques for fighting. Yes, he would admit that she is beautiful, but, as cliché as it may sound, she didn't compare to his Kurenai harem. The kunoichi sitting next to the male scanned the blonde with her only visible eye. She took in his form with a calculating eye. Naruto could feel as his chiseled arms, his armor-covered chest, nodashi sheath, combat pants and shoeless feet being traced over. It was at this moment. The woman's headband came into view as she twisted to get a better view of Naruto. Upon her right shoulder, sat the Kumo insignia. Deciding to be friendly, Naruto whispered to her. Enjoying the view? He questioned with a tiny smirk. A small blush adorned her delicate face. Oh, so you noticed Shinobi-kun. She whispered back, unsure of herself. I hope I could ask the same of you. Insecurity. Of course, Naru-sama, Mitsukai announced. A lot of women struggle with it. All because of what the stupid media says they have to be a specific size, body shish. I get it. The boy called back. I would be lying if I said no. A small chuckle escaped his throat. Uzumaki Naruto. He offered his name, hoping to get a reply. Ayoku, Arashi Ayoku, she quickly replied. It is a pleasure to meet you, Naruto-kun. The feeling is mutual. Quit talking maggots. One of the Chunin handing out the test called. The two resumed taking the test without another word. Wait a second, Naruto thought to himself. Why would Itachi tell us the rules before the exam was even given out? Was it to allow teams to coordinate with their teammates? Or is it all just a ruse to mock? Is focus more on the implications than the actual exam? The blonde stared directly at Itachi for a good 5 minutes. Of course the Junin knew of this and stared right back. Both males continued to stare each other down. Suddenly Itachi's voice shattered the silence. Number 18, 56, and 82 get out, the man ordered. Naruto's eye widened. How did he? What? We haven't done anything. One of the genin protested. Get out before I remove you personally. He enhanced his threat by drawing a kunai. Instantly the 3 Konoha genin ran from the room. Naruto grabbed his head, a slight pain poking at the back, and sighed. This stupid exam was becoming more troublesome. A short heated glare shot at the Uchiha before Naruto began to answer the questions. Well, he attempted to. Each question varied in sentence structure and length. But threw him for a loop was the fact that the questions appeared too easy. Upon further inspection of the paper, Naruto instantly sensed something was off. Normally, these exams would have been printed due to the sheer number of contestants, but ink did not settle upon the paper like it was now. It was almost if the exams had been handwritten. What would make them handwrite these? It was this thought that led to him folding the test in half. After unfurling the paper, the crease was not visible. Nothing had changed on its surface. Look underneath. The underneath, Kakashi's trademark phrase entered his mind. Genjutsu, the boy deduced. Nervous sweat gathered upon his brow as he focused a tiny bit of chakra to his finger. Milliseconds later, the letters began to shift around the page. The questions looked readable now. All right, now to get this dumb test over. The blonde cheered, then face-palmed. Question 1. What was the third Raikage known for? The questions continued on in a similar fashion, each rising in difficulty. 80% of the questions had to do with the village of Kumogakure, the last 2 questions had to deal with a common knowledge of any shinobi. No wonder he was sitting next to a Kumo nin. Itachi had literally chosen who every contestant was to sit by. This allowed the individual a chance to get the information needed. However, this was only possible if each person figured out there was a genjutsu on the paper. Then again, he would have to find some way to communicate with the lovely young woman beside him. A quick glance at her paper gave him the indication she had dispelled the genjutsu too. While he had scanned her paper, Naruto realized that her questions pertained to Konoha. Kageshin. Yes, Naruto. Is there any way you can send a message to the kunoichi beside me? I know you are made of my blood, so can you form words? Truth be told, I have never tried that. But in order for it to work, I need you to create a cut so I can control the blood flow. What would you like to convey? Equivalent exchange. I will do my best. Naruto used his thumbnail to make a small insertion on his palm. The crimson liquid slithered down his hand and onto the forearm. It slowly made its way under the desk and then traveled over to the Kumo kunoichi. Upon reaching the necessary spot, blood rounded the edge and began to form words. She caught the movement in the edge of her sight and looked down. Equivalent exchange. Who is, she began before catching another slight movement in the corner of her eye. Glancing over at Naruto, she saw a minuscule trail of blood running from the boy's limb. She responded with a tiny nod. Suddenly, a chunin with a feral appearance began to sniff the air. The FEMA. La ninja walked up to Itachi and told him about the smell. There's blood in the air, whispered the chunin. Itachi's monotone voice droned. Apparently Ayako had heard the comment and raised her hand. Proctor-san. Her sweet voice split the silence. Yes, Arashi-san, Itachi remarked after looking at the participant papers. I need to use the bathroom. Can you hold it? The test should be over soon. He countered. It's not something like that. She bowed her head in embarrassment. A tension-filled silence claimed the room. After a minute, Itachi broke it with a simple statement. The Uchiha deadpanned. Almost every woman smacked their heads at the male's small lapse into stupidity. A female chunin went over to the girl's row and led her outside. 10 minutes later she returned. Thanks to all the chairs in the way, the kunoichi was stumbling a bit to get back to her seat. When she finally did reach her place, a chair leg tripped the young woman. Luckily for her, Naruto was quick to catch her. Well, at least he attempted to. She ended up collapsing upon the boy's lap. Naruto blushed as she slid a piece of paper underneath his thigh. A blush crept onto the blonde's face as she slowly lifted her gaze to his. The room's occupants, attention all collected on the pair as they were frozen in place. Ayako heavily blushed upon seeing everyone staring. Naruto was, more than anyone else. Well, who wouldn't when the female had her abundant cleavage inches from your face? Ayya. A melodic voice rang in everyone's ears. I'm so clumsy sometimes. Cue sweat drop. Itak. I looked at the young woman with his ever-present deadpan expression. Get back to the exam before I deduct 2 points from everyone, the proctor bellowed. Naruto instantly helped her back up, all the while slipping a paper into hand. However, as her mouth passed his ear, she whispered. Liking what you see, Naruto-kun. She huskily breathed. A deeper crimson adorned his face now. He had been caught. Gomen, Naruto whispered back. Don't apologize, just take responsibility. You owe me, Diner Shinobi-san. A sigh escaped his mouth. The male had no way out of it. Equivalent exchange. A chuckle following the statement. Exactly. Distractions out of the way, the exam resumed without a hitch. Every 5 or so minutes, a team's numbers were called out and genin left. Some even cried. After 70% of the room was vacant, Itachi cleared his throat, gaining everyone's attention. Pencils down. After a quick glance around the room, only 10 teams left, disappointing. Those of UW who are left have passed the first section. Congratulations are in order, Itachi stated in his normal monotone voice. Confusion spread throughout the genin at the man's statement. Itachi, seeing said bewilderment, tried to answer their unasked questions. Chunin take on missions that will not always possess all the necessary information to complete their objectives. It is up to them to obtain information as accurately and stealthily as possible. Sometimes, false information will be present and it is the responsibility of the chunin to make a wise decision. The fact that you made it through this first section is proof of your prowess. All of you were placed strategically so that you had some way to obtain the necessary information. Though, that is only if you got past the genjutsu first. The chunin helpers then began to collect the exams. Once they were all collected, Itachi grabbed them and chakra visibly covered the papers. There, now that you all have passed, you might as well know that the second portion will commence tomorrow at noon. I will now let you proctor introduce himself. 5 minutes passed and no one showed up. I have a bad feeling about this, Naruto commented mentally. 10 more minutes crawled by, and still no one appeared before the attendees. Seeing this as an opportunity, Ayako turned to the male beside her. So Naruto-kun, about outdate, she stated, emphasizing the last word. Where and when should I pick you up, Arashi-san? There is no need to refer to me like that. After what you've seen, the woman winked suggestively, there should be no need for formalities. Hi. My team and I are staying at the Golden Forest Resort. My room number is 419. You can pick me up at 823. A confused expression crossed the boy's face. 823. What kind of person would want to be picked up at such a strange time? A melodious giggle rang in his ears from the female. I'm not one for such cliché times and occurrences. Do well to remember that, Naruto-kun. He shared a short laugh with her before he replied back. I will do my best. 823 it is. A small amount of killing intent was felt by the blonde. Using his peripheral vision, Naruto spotted a black-haired ninja glaring daggers at him. Do not worry about him, Naruto-kun. Ioku whispered. He is a childhood friend and has always been overprotective of me. Try to pay him no mind. But expect to get the talk when you come for me. The talk was something Naruto was very familiar with. Kakashi and Rin had been very gracious about sharing their stories on their personal experiences with it. Actually, it was something Naruto had even rehearsed thousands of times for when, if Kurenai ever found a man worth her attentions. Once again turning his sight back to the woman, he nodded in understanding. I will make sure he has nothing to fear from me. The two lightly conversed for another 15 minutes before Itachi decided to send everyone away. Since it is obvious that your proctor will not be here in the near future, I will let your sensei know where the next portion of the exam would be taking place. Itachi droned. Every Chunin hopeful left the room, excluding Konoha's Team 10 and the Kumo team. Ioku's overprotective friend basically materialized beside the young woman. Is there a problem, Ioku? He glared directly at Naruto, not even glancing at his teammate. The blonde rose from his seat and slightly towered over the other male. Crossing his arms, Naruto stared emotionlessly back. Stand down, Katai, she commanded. Naruto-kun is not threat. Bro. WL escaped the now named Katai as he begrudgingly stepped back. Suddenly smoke filled the room. Coughing was heard in the cloud of smoke. Kakashi's lazy form greeted the few remain occupants of the room. Oh bother, am I late? The Cyclopean Junin questioned, scratching the back of his head. Not one person dignified his question with a response. They merely evacuated the room, leaving Itachi and the late arrival alone. I even told you 5 hours early, Itachi droned before leaving in a swirl of leaves. Rin is going to kick my a. Hitaki. A womanly voice roared across Konoha. Ah crap. With Naruto and company, Team 10 and the Kumo team walked in relative silence. Ioku was walking closely to Naruto's side. Every move was being inspected. Either she is checking you out or she is trying to form an analysis of your skills. Tenshu commented. What do you mean? A lot can be derived merely from how someone carries themselves. Really? Can you explain more? Alright, take a look at that girl's overprotective friend. Naruto glanced at Katai out of the corner of his eyes. No one noticed that the blonde's left eye turned to a silver hue. He is left-handed, he does not like your closeness to his teammate. Ninjutsu is his main source of attack, and he has killed before. What? How do you know that? The calluses on his left hand are thicker and more abundant. Kagishin commented. His left foot is hitting the ground a little harder than the right. Katai is ready to spring at you if you do anything he does not like to his woman. Mitsukai added with emphasis, giggling in the process. Not only that, but his chakra stores are too large to be easily manipulated for genjutsu. Tenshu finished. The innocence in his eyes are gone. I see what you mean, Tenshu. I will be wary of him during the remainder of this exam. Good, now pay attention, you are at the entrance to the Golden Leaf Resort. Naruto's eye returned to normal as he did a short bow and bid farewell to the Kumo team. Ikyoku and the third teammate returned the courteous gesture. Katai continued to glare at the blonde genin. Tenten, Lee, meet at our normal training ground. Sensei is probably waiting for us. Yosh! Lee yelled, running off into the distance. The taijutsu nuts screams of youth slowly died out. A sigh escaped the only female member of Team 10. She soon walked off towards the aforementioned training ground. After Naruto turned around, a sultry voice called after him. Naruto-kun, don't forget about tonight. Oh, believe me, I couldn't possibly forget about it. Naruto called back before disappearing. Stay away from him, Ioku Haim, he is bad news. Katai spat. I don't think I can. This man has piqued my interest. A mischievous smile graced her lips. With Team 10, once Guy had formed the genin on the location of the second portion, Naruto instantly disappeared. After all, the male had a date to get ready for. On his way home, Kakashi unintentionally blocked his path, the ever-present porn book in his hand. Oi, Kakashi, Naruto sighed. Oh, Naruto, what a surprise. A familiar eye smile shone on the Junin's countenance. Quick question, what is meant by a cliché date? A hand rubbed his chin in thought. I would say arriving early, with flowers, dressed in your best, going to a romantic candle-lit diner, a walk through the park, and dropping her off at her door. Why do you ask? I was curious as to what someone I met meant by it. Does Naru-chan have a date tonight? Kakashi giggled perversely. Naruto hid the blush on his face as best as he could. Stupid perverts, the blonde stated before jumping towards his apartment. -8 o'clock. Naruto paced nervously in his apartment. Should he leave now? Did he dress well enough? So many questions fluttered throughout his mind. Naruto-sama, Mitsukai-kun, calm down. Just leave now, pick something up for her, and wait outside the resort until it is time. A heavy sigh passed his lips as he calmed himself. Alright. Thanks Mitsu-chan. Aiya. Thank me more. Naruto sighed at the scythe's antics. Locking the door on the way out, the blonde strolled into the brisk night. 5 minutes of walking gave him enough time to clear his mind. He stopped 2 times before reaching the resort. According to the giant clock on the front of the Golden Leaf Resort, the time was currently 8:20. Alright, 4:19 should be on this side of the building. Judging by the distance to her window, Naruto had quite a leap to perform. A burst of chakra signified his jump. He had reached the 3rd floor on the first jump. Sticking to the side of the building, he contemplated which window was Ayoku's. Well, that should be 401, 403, 415, 419. With one more jump landed on the small balcony of 419's room. Naruto tapped on the patio door and waited patiently. The door slid open and a young woman's head popped out. Ah, Naruto-kun. She cheered sweetly. This is a surprise. I was waiting for you at the door. Both shared a laugh. Naruto relaxed. His nervousness long gone. Something about this girl made him feel well, secure around her. You are definitely doing well with this non-cliché date. Well then Ayoku-chan, shall we? He offered her his hand. She gratefully accepted, but did not expect to be picked up bridal style. With her in tow, Naruto jumped from the balcony. Landing quietly on the ground, the male placed his cargo gently on the earth. My, what a gentleman, she giggled. Before they walked off, Naruto handed her a coat. It was now he took in his date's attire. Her hair was down from its high ponytail, cascading down her back and shoulders. Nearly a third of her face was hidden by the long bangs. She wore a light purple lipstick and a dark blue eyeshadow. Her dress, similar to her ninja gear, was a simple, form-fitting Chinese dress. This one, however, was midnight blue in color. It was sleeveless and revealed a lot less cleavage than her normal battle attire. The slits in her dress stopped around the middle of her calf shin. Regular ninja sandals covered her delicate feet. Where are we going, Naruto-kun? Truth be told, I haven't thought that far ahead. He laughed lightly. Ayoku's sweet giggle caressed his eardrums. This is definitely already a one-of-a-kind date. I take it that men ask you out a lot then. He countered with a smirk. That's for me to know and you to find out. She answered with a wink. The two walked for 18 minutes before Naruto spotted the location for the date. Akamichi's Grand Restaurant stood tall over the two ninja. Naruto had been here only a few times, but every occasion filled him with warmth and delicious food. Would you like to eat here, Ayoku-chan? The Akamichi clan is known throughout the shinobi nations for their culinary abilities. I have been here a few times. They use only the best ingredients. Every single menu item aims to fit the customer's specific makeup. The experience is unique. Lead the way, she ordered, dragging the male forward. Upon entering the establishment, the couple was quickly greeted and ushered to a booth. Ayoku glanced at Naruto, who was illuminated by the overhead light. As only at this time that the young female gazed upon the attire of her date. Blue jeans hang loosely around his waist. His torso was covered by a simple black, button-up shirt. Nothing tamed the wild mass of blonde locks. All in all, Ayoku consented that Naruto cleaned up very well. Excuse me, a heavy-set waitress broke the silence. Have you two decided upon your meal tonight? Yes, I would like the steak sukiyaki. Naruto stated before outstretching his hand. The waitress then proceeded to take it in hers, closed her eyes, and appeared to be meditating. After 5 seconds, the large woman scribbled a few things down. I see you are still eating well, Uzumaki-san. A gentle smile spread upon her features. His date quirked her brow at the exchange. I try my best, Akamaiki-san. Expectantly, the waitress turned to Ayoku. I would like the onigiri platter. The Kumo ninja ordered. After writing down the order, the older woman put out her hand. Give her your hand, Ayoku-chan. Naruto smirked at the confusion clearly visible on her face. It's okay honey, Akamichi offered another smile. I don't bite. Naruto chuckled lightly as she finally placed her hand within the waitress's. Repeating the same process from earlier. The special notes were placed on the notepad, and she then disappeared into the kitchen. What was that all about? The young lady questioned. The Akamichi clan has a strange ability. By touching a person's body, they can determine if the body is in optimal condition. Basically, a clan member can sense if maybe there is a toxin in your muscles that might cause you to cramp up. Using this ability, a person's food is cooked using specific ingredients to tailor to these malfunctions within. That is an extraordinary ability. And very beneficial to anyone who consumes the cook's concoctions. Quote, 10 minutes trudged onward, only small talk sedating the silence. Will my food taste weird? Ayoku inquired nervously. Naruto chuckled before answering. Not at all. In fact, there has yet to be a complaint since the founding of this restaurant. How long ago was that? Shortly after the founding of Konoha. A gentle voice interrupted. Ah, food. Naru. To chorused as his food was placed before him. The big waitress laughed at the boy's antics. There is never a dull moment around you, Uzumaki-san. After leaving the couple, both ninja dug in with a restrained fervor. Not a lot happened within the time it took to finish the meal and pay. Naruto just talked about some of neat places of interest within Konoha, and Ayoku described some of the dates she had been on. That wasn't the worst part though. She commented while holding in her laughter. He got me black roses, because they matched my dress. Wow. Naruto chuckled while he walked alongside his date. So do you have any past dating experiences? An innocent question, but one that left the blonde contemplating. I'm not sure I can say that I have. The Kumo Kunoichi looked at him as if he had grown a second head. What? Well, you fooled me, Naruto-kun. She smiled sweetly. By this time, the two ninja had arrived at the Golden Lead Resort. Heading up the stairs, to the third floor, Naruto escorted her to room 419. Ayoku absent-mindedly searched for her room key. After finding the elusive item, she turned her attention to the blonde male. I must say, Naruto-kun, that might have been the most non-cliché date I have ever had. She giggled lightly. I am glad you enjoyed it. Until next time, good night, Ayoku-chan. The young woman unlocked her door and crossed the threshold. With one more glance over her shoulder, she stated one last thing. I look forward to our next encounter. Naruto noticed a glint in her eye as she stealthily slipped into her room. It was partially mischievous and possessed a hint of something he could not quite identify. What do you think, Keigashin, Tenshu, Mitsukai? She will be a difficult opponent if you face her. Tenshu flatly stated. I second Tenshu's assessment. Just the way she carried herself gave off the impression of an experienced fighter. Also, there is something about her that makes me uneasy. What gave you that idea? I don't know about you, but I felt too comfortable around her. Especially when she is from a village that has been bitter enemies for decades. I see your point, Keigashin. I will be more wary of her. That woman better think twice before trying to seduce Naruto-sama. The scythe bellowed. What? Naruto questioned. How did you determine that? Call it a woman's intuition. Naruto sighed before leaving. However, he failed to notice the door behind him was slightly ajar. I told him to stay away from Heim. A growl broke the spectator's train of speech. I will paint the battlefield with his blood. The end. Thanks for watching. Also remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.